Hi everyone, my name is Ann Marie Marino and I serve on the board of AzAEYC as the Vice President of Professional Development.
I'm Camille Lachar-Lofaro and I am the President of AzAEYC. And on October 3rd, we held our annual meeting, and for the first time ever, this was a virtual event. In lieu of workshop sessions, which we typically offer in the past, meeting face-to-face, we presented a panel discussion.
The theme of the discussion was conversations with colleagues. Everyone has a story. Our theme was chosen to celebrate the NAEYC Advancing Equity Position Statement. We brought together real people who work in the field to share their stories. I was truly inspired by hearing about their passion, their dedication, and their commitment to young children and their families. And I know you were too, right, Camille?
Absolutely. And I am so glad that we have access to this powerful recording to help us reach beyond the day of the meeting itself for all of those who could not be there with us on October 3rd. So please take time to listen with an open mind, no judging, and please listen to learn.
While listening to our panelists, think about your own story. How can you use it to advocate for yourself, your colleagues, and for the children and families that you work with? We hope you are as inspired by their stories as we were. We have brought together several panelists that just have impactful, incredible stories. They're normal people like all of us working in the field, and they're just going to share a little bit about their background. But before we get started, I'd like to just set some expectations for how we are with the panelists and how we engage with them. So the first one is to be present. Our panelists have agreed to be here for us today, so let's be here for them. And number two is, of course, listen actively. They are sharing pieces of their life, and they deserve for us to hear that and to take that in. The third one is to critique ideas, not individuals. Of course, we welcome constructive criticism, but of ideas and not people. The fourth one is to commit to learning and challenging your thinking. That's why we're here today, to be exposed to new ideas and new experiences. And last but not least, defer judgment. Listen to the whole story, hear the whole conversation before you make any conclusions. So this will be a series of 6 questions. We will be kind of rotating who answers, and I'm going to let Camille kick it off for us.
Thank you, Ann Marie. So I can't thank the panelists enough. And just like Ann Marie said, they're sharing their own personal stories. These are people who I know, I love, I admire, and I just want everybody to know that I just want you to look at them as role models in that everybody has a voice. And everybody has the power to share their story. So you don't have to be a hierarchical teacher, you have to be a professional trainer. These are people that work every single day with children. They're on the front lines. And so here we go. So the first question that we have is, please tell us about yourself, including where you work, your position, how long have you been in the field, or have any other jobs that both in and out of early care and education? So Gwen, could you please be the first one to answer that question?
Hi, I'm Gwen, and I'm an early childhood special education teacher in the Gilbert Public Schools. This is my 16th year working in this field in Gilbert Public Schools. In my past, I've also been a 3rd grade teacher, a resource teacher, a substitute teacher, and even a paraprofessional. Now, for the first 15 years in Gilbert, I was a classroom teacher, and then 2 days before the school year was to start this year, they said, we need you to teach online. So I am now a virtual preschool teacher for those students whose parents feel it's not safe for them right now to be in the school. And that, as you might well imagine, is a very interesting adventure. So it's a true learning experience. So in addition to my work in the classroom, or virtual classroom for that matter, I am the past president of the Arizona Division for Early Childhood, subdivision of the, okay, words just left me, the Council for Exceptional Children, which we are now collaborating with in AzAEYC. And I have been an AzAEYC member for over 10 years. I very much appreciated that membership. And on a personal note, I've been married for almost 40 years. I have 5 grown children and 2 fabulous grandsons. And that's me.
Thank you, Gwen. Okay, Betty, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Betty Rushing. I work at ABC and 123 Small Blessings. I've been working there for 2 years. I just became director working there. I'm the director. I'm also the teacher for the 3 to 5 year olds. I'm also the cook. And I started this field when I was just 17 in high school. I started with child development, ended up working in a child care facility. And one day, state came in and they shut the facility down with parents not knowing what they were going to do. Me and a friend of mine instantly got on the phone and started making phone calls to all the parents. And then we began to open up a daycare in her home. And I did that for like maybe 10 years before going to the Department of Corrections working, and then came back to the field again. Like I said, I made director after working only 2 years in the field. And I want to thank Ashley Nelson because she was one of the people who came in and helped me do my assessments and was able to get my facility from a 2-star to a 3-star. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty. And you'll meet Ashley in a little bit. Okay, Luisa, good morning. And please answer or introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning. My name is Luisa Kidwell. I was born and raised in Colombia, South America, and I moved to the US in 2002. I didn't speak any English when I moved here, so you can only imagine how challenging that was to get a job and things like that. I started taking ESL classes, but it was very slow, so I decided just to learn on my own. And a few years later, I was probably comfortable enough and ended up going back to school and getting my master's in business administration. I started working at Easter Seals Blake Foundation in 2003 here in Tucson, and I started in the Child Care Center as a helper, whatever I was needed in the kitchen, changing diapers, taking trash out, you name it, I did it. And then after completing some CDA classes, I was able to help in the classrooms, and I started working in one of the toddler classrooms as a co-teacher. I've been in so many programs at Blake. Some of them are, I was a family educator doing home visits with the Early Head Start program. I worked with the Division of Developmental Disabilities with children with severe delays, with ALTEX, supporting individuals with medical needs, and then with ASIP as a developmental developmental specialist. And I ended up as an associate director about 6 years ago, and I support 4 childcare centers in Tucson, Safford, Coolidge, and Apache Junction, and I oversee the Head Start and Early Head Start contracts with our agency. And I just want to say hi to Albert. He's here. He's my partner from Child Parent Centers. And also I want to say hi to, I think her name is Lisette. I didn't capture that. She works with Parents as Teachers in Yuma, maybe. So I'm glad to have someone else from Blake representing us today. that's me.
Thank you, Louisa. Okay, Ashley, please introduce yourself.
My name is Ashley Nelson, and I'm 33 years old. I'm a mommy to 3, 1 girl and 2 boys. 2 out of my children have IEPs, and so that can be a little bit challenging with work. And I go to school at CAC at the professional career pathway program. I currently work as a lead teacher at ABC and 123 Small Blessings, and I don't work your typical hours. My typical day starts at 3:30 in the morning, and I am there to clock in by 3:45 a.m. To accommodate our families that work in the healthcare. And I also have people that work at an airport, so I have to be there super early. So trying to juggle school, kids, and work, it's a little bit challenging, but I do it, and I love it. So I've been working with children for 15 years. I started out of high school because I took a class in child development, and I really, really liked it. So as soon as I got out of high school, there was a job opening at a daycare center, and I took it, and I liked it. And I've been there for 14 out of the 15 years, and then I went to the ABC 123 Small Blessings, and I've been there since January. And you're welcome, Betty, and I appreciate helping you. I just want to say hi to Jade. She was our coach, and she helped me help Miss Betty, and I just really want to appreciate her and thank her also for helping me help Miss Betty. So that's it.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, and Ysidro, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ysidro Holmes. I use he, him pronouns, and I currently serve as student representative for Southern Arizona AzAEYC. I'm a student at the University of Arizona going for early childhood education and minoring in government and public service. And then I've been a teacher for 8 years. I started right out of high school. And currently, with just everything happening, I'm not working in the classroom. So it's the first few months of me not doing this kind of work. So I'm kind of like mourning, not seeing children all the time, even in a virtual way. So it's very different. I'm also the president of Somos Enlace, an early childhood student organization. And a little fun fact about me is during high school, my first job was a pizza delivery person for Domino's. So that was like my first job. And then I got into the field after graduating high school when I was 18. And just children, just teaching was very natural to me. My mom, so that's kind of how I got into the field. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ysidro. Okay, Ann Marie, you're up.
Okay, so question number 2, I would love to start with you, Betty. And the question is, how did you get here? Were there any significant life events that led you to this work?
I can honestly say when I first started school, it was about health and safety. I think around sometime in October is when I lost my grandson, my only grandson. He was 2 years old. I had to juggle school and a babysitter. So my husband worked on the weekends. So I let him go with his other side of the family, which was the grandmother of his father. During that time, the same day I had a class on Saturday. I felt sick all day in class. That night, I received a phone call saying my grandson had drowned. Honestly, I wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. I didn't want to. But being that I have other grandchildren, there are things that I have to teach them so I don't have to go through the same thing. So honestly, my grandson is what's pushing me every day, every single day. I can't give it to anybody else, it's him. And it's the hardest thing ever. We just had his birthday on the 30th. So it was his first birthday in heaven. Every day is a struggle. But I tell you, if it wasn't for Jade, my friends at work, my family, I probably would have given up everything, every single thing. But when I walk into that daycare every day, I get so much love. And that's what picks me up. It picks me up and keeps me going, because not a day goes by that I don't see his face inside the daycare, because I was raising him. He lived with me. And it's very hard. But like I said, I got good coaches. Jade, I love you. You've been here through the good and the bad. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for listening and letting me get my story out. Thank you.
Betty, thank you for sharing that. I hope that you have a chance to look at the chat and see all of the support that everyone present is giving you right now. So we know that's a big part of you and your life, and we really appreciate your willingness to share that with us.
Thank you.
Let's shift that question over to Gwen. Gwen, tell us how you got here.
Didn't want to follow that, Betty. My heart is with you. I was just typing that and she called my name. Well, when I left high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college. I went to a 2-year college and I dabbled in art and music and didn't know where that was going to take me. And I had someone suggest, you could do them both if you go into elementary education. And so that's where I started. Now, I figured I would be the greatest teacher in the whole world, which isn't really a goal for anyone. We don't want to be the greatest. We want to be a member of the team. But I felt like I got a lot of criticism. I began to feel like I was a failure. And when I had my first baby, I decided to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. My teaching certificate expired and I went, I never have to do that again. And then when my children were in school, I was always at school. I was a volunteer. I became a substitute. I became a paraprofessional. And eventually I went back to the classroom. But the one thing I said was nothing younger than 2nd grade. Because I subbed kindergarten one day because they twisted my arm. And I said, I need you to take your seats. And one little boy said, but where do you want us to take them? So when I left that day, I said, I'm sorry, I don't speak this language. Nothing younger than 2nd grade. But I kept reading as I was working on making sure I had Arizona certification, that all the growth, all the brain growth that's happening in early childhood. And it was inspiring me. So when I hesitantly applied for the special education preschool job, it turned out that I got to be pleasantly surprised. It was a rough first year, but after that, everything is learning, and it's my favorite thing. And that's how I got here.
Thank you so much. I love the take your seat story. That's very entertaining. That's kids are. Let's shift back to Ysidro. Tell us about how you got here, please.
Yeah, so right out of high school, I didn't know what to get into, and I knew that I was really good with working with children. And I think the significant thing that happened was my mom was, she worked with, she was a foster parent. And so I always had children in my home, you know, early in the mornings, I'd have breakfast with new children, things like that. So I think it just became very natural to me, and I just learned by observing my mom, and she ended up adopting 3 young children. And so just watching that selfless kind of love, you know, it really like moved me as a young child. And so I just thought I should try that out. So I started working in a school, a corporate school, and then that didn't really go well I mean, it went okay, but you know, corporate world is very different. And I started working with children with disabilities, and that really changed my way of thinking. And I think same with Gwen, learning about brain development, that really made me want to be in this field.
Thank you so much. And Ashley, if you could share with us how you got here, please.
I got here because, like I said, out of high school, I took a child development class and I really liked it. And it was just amazing just to learn stuff about children and how they grow and stuff like that. And then getting the job like right away was awesome too. And just, you know, I'm a teenager and I'm like scared and to even open up as I am, who I am as a person. But I've learned a lot with working with children. But what really inspired me is, and how I got here is, I had a teacher who stuck in my head forever, and I'll never forget her, because growing up, I was in unfortunate situations in broken homes, and I was homeless, and me and my mom and my other siblings traveled everywhere, and it was just a mess growing up. But this teacher really reached out to me, and she made life easier, and she always made me happy when I went to school, and I would cry when I would go home because I didn't want to go home. And she was just the sweetest person, and I'll never forget that she chose me to donate a Christmas to, and her preparing the food and bringing presents to a hotel that we managed to get on Christmas, and her just showing up with the gifts and everything. And just that stuck in my mind forever, that I want to bless somebody and be that person for somebody else if I ever had the chance. And luckily I did. I had that chance. I had a chance to bless a family, a mom who was going through hard times, and I blessed her. I helped her as much as I could all the time, giving her kids rides to school, you know, donating clothes, or, you know, helping her get a hotel room, or taking her to prenatal visits because she was also pregnant. Anything I could do to help her, because, you know, I looked at her children and it just saddened me, because I was that child. So I wanted to be there for her as much as I could, you know, because, you know, I was blessed, so it was an honor to be able to bless somebody else, and, you know, be here for the children who are going through those situations that I've always been in, you know, being able to like cheer them up when they're having a bad day, or just giving them extra support along the way, you know, or helping, you know, helping them find resources, or just anything that they may need. I'm glad that I chose this field, because I don't know where I'd be without it, because I think it's made me who I am today.
Thank you, Ashley. That's a beautiful story of giving back when you're in a position to be able to do that. Thanks for sharing. I will turn it over to Camille for the next question.
Okay, so when you see my camera go off, it's because I'm crying, and I just wanted to put that out there to everyone. So, the next question is, would you be willing to share an experience where you felt that you were not being treated fairly or equitably? And I would ask if Luisa, if you could please share that experience with everyone.
Well, so I have multiple situations here, and I hope you know this is very uncomfortable for me, because I'm a very private person and I don't find joy talking about my stories or whatnot, but I found one that meets the needs of this meeting this morning, so I hope you're able to follow my story. So when I worked at one of the childcare centers as a co-teacher, I had a lead teacher that was very disrespectful to me. She always talked to me like I was less than her and made me feel, I don't know if there's something smaller than this. Never took the time to learn anything about me, to find out who I was as a person, where I came from, absolutely nothing. And she didn't allow me to talk to the parents or some of the children, and it made me feel like she was always embarrassed of working with me. So one day she told me, if you work hard, maybe you will be like me, a teacher. I was so offended by her comment. A lot of things went through my mind, and I stayed very calm, as I usually do, and I said, I think it's the first time that I told her, I already have a degree. I already have a bachelor's degree. And it changed the way she was talking to me, and that bothered me so much that I decided that was not a pleasant place for me, and it was not positive. So I ended up moving to another program within our own agency. So a lot of things happen, right? I wish I knew then what I know now and how I will respond to someone like that. I wonder what happened that she felt entitled to talk to me like that and to make another human being feel like this. So right now, if that were to happen to me, I will report her. I will ask her, like, what makes you feel that you have the entitlement to talk to me like that? Why are you assuming? Who do you think I am? Did you bother to ask me where I came from? And what is sad to me is that we have so much in common. Both of us are immigrants. Both of us had Spanish as our first language, and we love working with children. So that was like bizarre, right? So I ended up leaving, and a few years later, I got to see her again. And I don't know if you have ever felt that you're so mad at a memory, not necessarily at the person. I don't remember exactly what she said, but oh God, I remember exactly how small I felt when I talked to her. So I decided just to change the way I was thinking about her. Instead of being mad at her, I decided to change my story. So I thought maybe she just didn't connect her mouth with her brain and her heart. So she did not mean to make me feel that way. And that's when I realized, we need training. This is ridiculous. We should not be talking to people like this. She was an educator, so it all starts here. And since then, my mentality about advocating for people is just exploded. And I feel that is my role in this world, to advocate for those that don't think they have a voice.
Thank you, Luisa. And I had to put in the chat box, mad at a memory and not at a person. That was great. So thank you. Okay, Betty, if you would please share your story. And I just want everybody, all of our participants, to know that the panelists know which questions are being addressed to them. We're not putting anyone on the spot here. We're not intimidating anyone. This was pre-planned. So, and we asked the panelists to choose which questions they were most comfortable with, because we don't want anybody to feel like they're not in a safe space. Okay, Betty, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so there was a time, so I had made director, and I had probably only been director maybe a couple of weeks. And this parent has always seen me. I was the teacher for his child. Okay, so this parent comes in and he wants to talk to the director. Now, mind you, my bosses, they're mixed breed. So they're really light skinned, I'm dark skinned. So he comes in, he has to talk to the director. So I was called up and I asked, sir, how can I help you? He looked at me like I was nothing. He did not want to talk to me. He went on to ask another staff who was Caucasian some questions in which she could not answer. She had to turn to me anyways. So I ended up asking the questions, but it was like in a translating type thing. Like he would tell her, she would ask me. And that made me I felt disrespected. I was at a loss for words. He did not acknowledge me at all. And still today, he does not. And I am his teacher. So when he wants to ask how his child did in school today, he goes to my aide instead of asking me. Like, I just want to say I am so proud to be a woman of color. Black lives do matter. I feel like all lives matter though. But at the end of the day, who are you to judge me? I teach your kid every day. I take care of him from 8 to 10 hours. How are you not gonna talk to me? Like, I really, till today, right today, I still feel like I'm like the other lady. I feel like I'm this small when I see him. When I see him, I wanna say something to him like, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? I can't help who I am. I can't help what color I am. But like I said, he won't even say hi. I greet everybody who comes through that door. And regardless of how he feels, I still say something and he still looks at me like I'm nothing. And honestly, that's how he made me feel that day, like I was nothing. And so I just want to say to everybody, I am proud of who I am. I am proud of my color. You can look at my house. Everything in here is of my background. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening today.
Thank you so much, Betty. And I really do hope that everybody gets a chance to look at the comments that are in the chat box, because they really, everybody is listening. And I think it goes back to Ann Marie's first expectation for today. Be a listener. Just listen to that. There's a lot of intertwining stories, and there's a lot of similar messages just being told in a different way. And especially for the panelists, just really take a look at the chat box, because there's so much support here. Okay, Ann Marie, back to you for the next question.
Okay, so I would love to start this question with Ysidro. And the question is, what's your vision for the future regarding equity in early childhood education? What's your role in making that vision a reality?
What's significant?
Yeah. So as a child and being a diverse kid and not knowing it then, but knowing now, a transgender person, seeing how teachers can understand things and really listen to a child, it really moved me in that way. And seeing teachers not really give, listening to the child or kind of doing things like that. So when I see inequities, it's just, I feel like as a teacher and learning those kinds of things, getting to a certain place where you can make those big decisions and those changes, whether it's in the classroom, in your state, or at a national level. And so being in something like this, or being just being in a role that you can change things on a larger scale is very important. And so I think for us to just get to a place where we understand these inequities and be able to move forward with things, we all need to be on the same level first, and then we can move forward with that. And having these kinds of conversations is where it starts. So
thank you for that answer, and for being willing to have these types of conversations. Thank you for being a part of it. I am going to direct that same question to Luisa. If you could share your answer, please.
So I think I go back to the story I told you about the person who was an educator and made me feel this big. So I think it all starts there. I don't think she woke up thinking, I'm gonna go to work and make Luisa feel miserable. it was just like a natural reaction. So I don't blame her for that, or anyone. I think it's a lack of training. So my vision would be to have all the educators trained on equity, diversity, cultural competences, crucial conversations, and be aware and more knowledgeable about how to talk to themselves and their students about any of these things. And my role as an associate director for the early childhood programs with Easter Seals Blake Foundation is pretty much to advocate. I am committed to advocating for families, children, and my staff. And I'm willing to talk about these things, even if they are very uncomfortable. Like I'm at a point where somebody has to say something, right? And I feel comfortable enough to do that in a way that I can represent the population that I'm supporting. I think I also have, I guess in this case, is a blessing because I am part of the group that writes the policies and makes sure they are implemented and followed with the agency. And because of that, I have seen changes with the discrimination, harassment, cultural differences within the agency. So I feel that if we talk about it, we're gonna get somewhere. If we keep it to ourselves, people are gonna continue making us feel like the way I did over 10 years ago. I think we just need to say enough is enough.
Thank you. What I took away from your answer is being able to talk about it, even if it feels uncomfortable. I felt like that was such a powerful part of your statement. And thank you for being willing to talk about it. And last for that question, Gwen, if you could speak to number 4 for us, please.
Well, I'm glad everybody did such a great job with that question because I love some of the things that I was hearing there, especially when Luisa talked about training. Because, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood where there was not a lot of diversity. And so I didn't have a need, or I didn't perceive a need to learn more. You know, I considered myself someone who was not racist or who was not judgmental. But the very first step, I think, in promoting the future of equity is to examine yourself. And I think a lot of times what we do is we look for the person who's the most like us because we feel something in common, we're in our comfort zone. And so that's okay, but it's not good enough. We need to learn to broaden our appreciation and learn about people, get to know them, get to know what makes them them, what makes you, and understand that each child is in a family, and whether that family is a strong, close-knit family, or if it's one that is more of a dysfunctional nature, that is their center. We need to learn to appreciate their culture, be non-judgmental, and wasn't that one of the things we're supposed to say is don't be judging, don't be judging, and just appreciate and embrace everyone's culture. And also what Luisa said about training is that it's not a one-day shot. A lot of times, you know, in public schools, we have little videos we have to watch and take a test. And then after we take the test and we pass it, we're done with our diversity training. It needs to be an ongoing conversation so that all staff members are aware, so that you create an entire community of equity-minded professionals, so that children are then in their comfort zone, because when they are in their comfort zone, that is when learning happens. And that's all.
What a beautiful answer. Thank you, Gwen. I am going to turn it over to Camille for the next question.
Thanks, Ann Marie. And I have to just thank everybody every time I come on to answer a question, because to ask a question, because really it's all these stories are from the heart, and they're just very powerful, very moving, and very motivating. Okay, so Ashley, can you please share with everyone what motivates you to stay in the field and work with young children? What motivates you as an early childhood professional?
What motivates me is getting up knowing that every day is going to be different. It's not like a normal desk job. I'm not going to go and sit behind a desk and answer phones. I'm going to basically have fun and to watch kids learn and grow and to hopefully teach them something that they will hold on for succeeding years. I also, they motivate me to be a better person and to try harder and to always push to the next level. Not only the kids that I work with, but my own children, just children in general. I feel rewarded when parents recognize me and tell the director, oh, I feel comfortable leaving my child here. You know, at first I was uneasy. We got the crying moms that always cry. And then we got and then I'm always reassuring them. And then next thing I know, the kids love coming, and it feels really good. I even see them out in the community, which is so funny because the parents are like, stop talking to her. She's not at work. She's doing her own thing. And I always have to reassure them, no, it's okay. I love giving hugs, and I love seeing my kids outside of work, you know, and just the smiles on their faces and the parents, how they joke around with me. It's amazing. I love it. And it always pushes me to do more and to be better and be a role model to just like, I don't know. I don't know. I love my kids, and it really does drive me to get up in the morning. And some days are better than others, and I could be having a bad day and I go to work and all that, it just goes away, because when they're laughing and playing and joking or singing a song or being silly, or, you know, they like to play dress up and make me a little meal. It's just that all the troubles and everything goes away. And I don't think about that. I just think about them and just go on about our day. That's what motivates me, is my kid.
Thank you, Ashley. I do. I really appreciate that you were willing to share. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ysidro, would you like to tell our participants what motivates you to work as an early childhood professional?
Sure. I think it's a lot of what Eric was saying at the beginning. You know, he was talking about imagining, you know, our field and having support and access. And I think that's what really motivates me to continue in this field and to continue what we're doing on behalf of children. And I mean, like I said before, for minority students or like children in general, it's hard for adults for some reason to listen to them, you know? And so I think that it motivates me to think of what I can do as an adult, how I can be a voice for that child. And I think that is very important. So I think that's my main motivator is them.
Thanks, Ysidro. And I love that how you said adults have a hard time to listen, right? We do. There are a lot of adults that have a hard time listening to kids. And I just want to share that I was in a part of a training last week, and they brought out a very interesting point that the word listen and the word silent have the same letters. They're made up of the same letters. So really we have to zip it and, you know, quiet mouth and listen be silent and listen to those children. And if those children don't have a voice, we are their voice. So thank you so much. Okay, Ann Marie, you're up for the last question.
I'm a little bit disappointed that this is the last question because I could sit here all day. So let's start with Luisa. And here's the question. Educators can change the world. What's the one piece of advice you would give to everyone here today that would empower them?
So this is interesting because it's hard to give advice when you're in the process of improving yourself, right? So I am very humbled to be here and to have the opportunity to share part of who I am as a human being and the role I represent with the agency. So, I mean, this is a fact. Educators will change the world. It's not a question, we should not be doubting this, right? So I think what needs to happen is, in my opinion, we need to define our values as individuals, as a program, and as an agency, and live by those standards. I think anything that compromises our values is going to be very difficult for us to overcome challenges or to help those that we are serving. I also think that we set the stage for how others are treating us, and that's something that I really work with my team very hard. It breaks my heart when the teachers, co-teachers, substitutes, or cooks say, I'm just a cook, or I'm just, and you fill the gap. Like, no, you're not just, you are the cook. Your role is as important as everyone else, and the organization structure should not be CEO, blah, 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 blah. It should be actually a circle, because without one person, the whole program is not going to function. And that's something that I really advocate for with my agency. The role doesn't define you as a human being. It's just what you are representing within the agency. I think another advice, I guess, don't underestimate your powers. Don't wait for opportunities to present or for doors to open. Go and open that door all by yourself because you have all the tools. And unless you're willing to do it, opportunities are not going to come to you and say, are you there, Luisa? Open the door for me. So I strongly believe on that. And I want to make sure that I deliver my statement. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read it because I want this to be very clear and I don't want to mess it up. So I believe every human deserves to be treated with dignity, respect, and compassion. Our skin color, country of origin, and language should not divide us. It should allow us to learn about and from each other and appreciate the beauty of cultural differences. So that's all I have. I'm very grateful to be here, and I hope that you guys, in a way, share something with me. I know I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, and I have insecurities, but I'm working on those things every single day. And being here today is a reminder that I still have so much to learn and that I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to share 3 hours of my day with so many people that I will never see again, but are wonderful. So thank you everybody for being here today.
Thank you, Luisa. You gave me chills. It's so many things that you said were so powerful, but I just love that idea of you're not just the cook, you're not just anything. And that's such an important lesson. Thank you so much. And then last and definitely not least, Ysidro, could you please answer our last question?
Yeah, so I think same with Luisa was saying, you know, as being a lifelong learner, you're never done learning new things. And I mean, that's what we're doing here, right? We're learning from other people through their experiences and things like that. So I think that's very important. And to think that like teaching is reciprocal too. I learn as much, or the child learns as much from me as I do from the child. And I think that that's something that early educators should figure out right away, you know, because like I said, hearing from a child, you know, thinking like, well, I kind of know everything, but really checking yourself and as an adult and saying like, well, no, this child knows a lot and has a lot to teach me about them as well. So I think that is very important. And with that, I also wanted to say one of my favorite Mayan Proverbs. It's called In La Quech, and I'll write how it's spelled, but it's you are my other me is what it means. And it's a little poem, so I'll write it, and then y'all can go ahead and check it out. And I just also wanted to say before I say goodbye too is super grateful to be on this panel with you amazing women. Like, you're very inspiring, and also to see all these educators today. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we do have so much to learn from children as well. And thank you to everybody for being so willing to share. I am going to turn it over to Eric for our next steps.
Yeah, thank you. Can we just take a moment to honor and thank our panelists for sharing their stories with us today? If you prefer, there's a reaction button on the bottom if you want to give a clap or a thumbs up or turn on your video and clap. We appreciate you taking the time to share your stories. Your voices matter and your voices are powerful. We are excited to have offered this opportunity, and this is not the last step. We want to offer multiple opportunities for those working directly with children to be able to share their stories. And we've really learned a lot, and thank you so much for sharing your heart and your mind with us today. I feel like we're much more connected now than when we first started talking. So thank you for your time. As part of our work for AzAEYC, part of our goal is to dismantle racist systems and build new equitable systems where the voices of those who are typically disenfranchised are heard. So thank you again for participating, and we hope to continue this work together with you. So it's 10 o'clock. We're going to invite you to take a 10-minute break from 10 to 10:10. When you come back, we have automatically sorted people into breakout groups. So you'll actually get a chance to be in a room with one of the panelists and have some conversation, answer a couple of questions, and really just start to debrief and talk about advancing equity in early childhood. So be prepared for that when you come back, but please take a 10-minute break. We'll see you back here at 10:10, and we'll break into small groups to be able to have some discussion. Welcome back, welcome back. We know it's always tough to pause the conversation, but we appreciate you taking the time to discuss with one another. We wish we could be here all day with you, but as busy early childhood professionals, I'm sure you have lots of other things to be taken care of on your weekend, so thank you for bearing with us. We are recording this section because we want to capture the feedback about what you discussed in your group, so I do hope that you identified a person to share what you discussed. But Ann Marie, do you want to lead us through that? I can share the questions. We'd love to hear what any aha moments from your group, and then if there are any common themes that your group discussed together, anything that sort of emerged from the conversation.
I will go ahead and start with my group. We had some really brave members who shared some extremely powerful things in our breakout. And one of them was that idea of just feeling sort of inferior in this field or invalidated, and that the fact that the panelists were willing to share their stories really helped people to just feel inspired again and remember why we're doing this work. We agreed that we all have stories, those stories matter, and they have a purpose, and that we need to not stay strangers. We need to keep this connection going of something beautiful that really started here today. So that was kind of the summary of my group. And I would love to hear the next group who's ready to volunteer.
I can share from our group. We didn't identify speaker. We were like deep in a moment, and then the breakout group ended, and it was just so powerful. But some of the things, I took a couple of notes, and I think some of the things that we acknowledged was just how critical it is to gain more knowledge, and how grateful we are to have a space like this where we can hear stories from people in the field and look back at the way that we were raised or the way that we've acted in our own classrooms, and really reflect on that, to examine our biases or to examine whether we're creating spaces that are safe or unsafe for children in our own classrooms. And then just kind of this idea of holding space for ourselves as humans, right? And working in a field, working tirelessly in a field where often we're not appreciated in the way that we would like to be. we are still humans at the same time with struggles and hardships and all of those things happening. And so how do we hold space for ourselves while still showing up for children every day, and kind of striking that balance and asking for help and being able to lean on administrators and leadership and colleagues, and just like the team and the field, and being able to like lean into our field for support when things come up like that. And then I think just to wrap up, like just this idea that our kids are our future, and the things that we're doing today have such a big impact on the world that we're creating, you know? So I feel like that's kind of a general wrap up from our group, but it was such a powerful experience to have that breakout group.
Thank you for sharing, Katie. Who would like to go next?
I can share out for our group. Some of the aha moments and kind of common themes that emerged in the discussion from our group was really around the intersectionality of the barriers across stories, that although there were unique challenges that all of the panelists experienced, there was so much overlap, and so much overlap in our own lives, as we talked about it in the breakout group, where there were people who have raised grandchildren and kind of been in very, very, very similar situations. And even if it wasn't, you know, experience for experience similarity, there's so much commonality across people's experiences. And then we talked a little bit about how some of our reactions to things in the field make us want to engage more or less with people when it comes to professional items, like bringing new ideas to our schools or centers, and how we have invested our time and energy into kind of sharing these new great ideas that we want to try out. And if the people who are making decisions at the top are uninterested or don't see the value in some of that, how that can be really defeating for people that are interested in trying new things or engaging in new activities or practices. We also talked a little bit about that when children are not in the best situations or not getting the best care or kind of having the best people around them, that it really is our opportunity or our obligation as professionals to make sure that we are advocating on their behalf, and that they are able to share their stories and concerns in the way we are, but that really we have a professional obligation to make sure that we are representing them in the best way we possibly can as professionals. And then we kind of closed up by talking about how hearing personal stories of children who have overcome struggle or really thrived in a certain situation really give us a chance to use some of those personal stories as advocacy tools. And we're really able to see the impact that professionals and families can have on young children, and how much of a difference that can make for them.
Thank you for sharing, Mona. Who can share next?
I can share for our group. I think we're room 7. We had a lot of good conversations about how and why we should be talking about diversity and different cultures in the classroom. We all shared some of our own experience, and we actually had Kale. Is that how you? I'm not sure how you say that. But she actually shared like her like a kind of like a shocking story, how when she went in for a job and they asked her to actually remove her head wrap. I am not sure the pronunciation of that. And we were all just kind of shocked in that they would have asked her to do that without even knowing her background, the importance of what that represents for her and her culture. And so she was kind of sharing about her experiences, and that I think just kind of touched all of us to be able to share and hear what other cultures still go through and all the prejudice that still exists. And so we're kind of learning and growing. And I think Tina was talking about, she like is a director too, so she was like asking how we can go about starting those conversations with the families, the parents. And I think we hopefully got some good tips, and to hopefully bring those conversations into the classroom by reading some good books and just having cultural heritage months, and really bring all of those to light. And hopefully we can just all learn and grow from that. So thank you, Kale, for sharing that personal experience. So thank you. We had a really great conversation in our group.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going on the assumption that you kind of had the permission to share her personal story. I'm guessing, yeah, you probably discussed that. And I just a reminder for everybody else, as if we share, let's just make sure that the person has given their consent to share those stories, because we can learn a lot from those stories if it's comfortable enough for someone to share them with us. It's very brave. Thank you. Who is next?
I guess I'll share from our group. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay, thank you. So we talked a little bit about all of the different stories and how they all were pretty impactful for our group. A lot of us shared that we've been kind of removed from classrooms for a little bit, and so it's important to remember the stories of people that are actually doing the work, because they're really important in the lives of children, and probably the people that are having the most impact with children as well. And then we kind of talked about how frustrating it is that it's 2020 and we're still having conversations about diversity and inclusion and equity, especially in classrooms and especially for early childhood educators, which kind of led us into this other discussion around how important it is to research candidates that we're voting for, and then how important it is to vote, but then also holding the people that we vote for accountable and remembering that they work for us and we don't work for them, and reminding them of the promises that they made to us in order to get our votes, and how they should be voting for the early childhood community as well. So we kind of talked a lot about that, and I see other people have mentioned it in the chat, so keeping that in mind too. But then we also talked about just persisting in difficult conversations about advancing early childhood. And then just remembering that, yes, those conversations are very difficult and they're hard to have. But ultimately, that's what gets us recognized as an early childhood field and the importance that we have in the community. So we talked about some of that as well. And then most importantly, we talked about just early childhood educators in general doing the best that they can with what they know, and reminding us too that those of us that aren't in classrooms anymore, we did a lot of training and had a lot of education to make ourselves better, but also the importance of us providing those to early childhood educators too, so that way they remember how important they are, and then that they're not babysitters and they have really hard jobs and they deserve to be recognized for that. So what are we doing for them to kind of help better what they know so they can be better, because they really are the most important people to children. So that kind of wraps up what we talked about.
Thanks, Kim. You got the chat going there, talking about voting and all of those other important things that you've shared. Do we have another group?
Yeah, we were from group 3. We didn't really pick a speaker, but I'll volunteer to just kind of sum up what we discussed. The 18 minutes felt like 2 minutes, first of all. And I mean, the central theme I think that kind of emerged was that it's important for us to understand ourselves and have this inner understanding of our backgrounds, our views, how we perceive life. And we talked about how important that breaking down the silos. One of our group members is the owner of a preschool, and she was just, sharing how she felt like, we're not really valued as early educators. We know that we don't get the credit that we deserve. And she's hoping that through this COVID-19, that their partnerships are able to be made with agencies and with the state, and hopefully that early education can be valued and looked at as an important entity, as important as we all know that it is. We're all passionate educators. We talked about just how we were able to relate and how we respect the panelists for sharing their stories, and the difficulties that they faced maneuvering through the system. And so, like I said, that 18 minutes felt like 2 minutes, and we kind of got cut off there. But it was good. It was good. There was good conversations, and it just demonstrates how much work we have, and how much more work we have to do going forward in order to advance equity for early educators. So hopefully I captured that. Okay. We didn't all get an opportunity to speak, but I know that we all had a lot to say.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for sharing. Is that the last group? I lost all of the good things that were coming out. I lost track of the number of groups. Did anybody else need to share still?
I think you got it, Ann Marie.
Okay, awesome. Then I guess I'm turning it over. Who am I turning it over to next?
Camille,
okay, I'll speak.
Talk about this, or you got it? Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right, Eric, I think that maybe if you want to speak to this, you can, since you'll be speaking here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll turn it over to you in just a moment. Let me talk a little bit about advocacy. So as we mentioned, these spaces, these brave spaces where we're all together and talking and hearing stories from educators who are often underrepresented, and really understanding their experiences and learning from them, and finding ways in which we can move forward together and advocate on behalf of each other is particularly important. We don't want that to pause after this session. So part of our work in the next year or so is continuing to offer these types of brave spaces where early educators and people from outside the field can come together and really hear the power behind the voices of us as educators, and start to make some decisions about what our field could look like versus what it's always looked like. AzAEYC has worked really hard to help build the skills of early childhood professionals to feel comfortable talking with legislators and talking about why their work is important. So we do kind of similar to what we did here with the panel, where we help provide a space for those early childhood educators to share their story with our US senators, with our US representatives, with our state legislators as well, and then really help them to understand why early education is important, and then get those state and federal investments and policies that are equitable in terms of improving access for children. And, you know, the tough part is saying goodbye. I think I just imagine we'll all come back together tomorrow morning and spend some time hearing each other's stories and getting to know each other. So please stay connected with us. We'll send, like I said, we'll send some resources in a follow-up email in a couple of days. So just be on the lookout in your inbox for that. But following AzAEYC on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn is a great way to stay connected, to hear about times when it's important to contact your legislator, hear some of the updated information NAEYC is presenting, and to really stay connected with a bigger movement of people like us who are really trying to create a better Arizona for children, families, and educators. So we encourage you to join us and stay connected. I suppose I have the pleasure of bringing us to a wrap. So I just wanted to take a moment to honor and thank our panelists and all of you as participants for joining us here today, for taking the time to listen and to share your stories, and for being brave and powerful with your voices. I think we've learned a lot today around just how important it is to understand that each of us is a human, and that each of us is really committed to making a better place, better early childhood for children, families, and educators across the state. So can we just take a moment to thank the panelists and each other for our participation today. In closing, really kind of the next steps would be, we encourage you to take a few moments, it should only take about 2 minutes, to complete this survey at bit.ly/AzAEYC annual. I'll put it in the chat in just a moment. It'll take a few minutes, just fill out the survey. There's a place at the end where we've asked if you want to share your story with us at AzAEYC, so that we can elevate the voices of early childhood professionals and continue that work. So if you're interested, feel free to put your information there, and Vicki, who's our communication specialist, would reach out and potentially do an interview or a blog post with you. Other than that, if you would like a PDF certificate, feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to send that over once you've completed the survey. I'm not really good at saying goodbye, so I guess I'll just close by saying it was such a pleasure to spend time with you, sharing the important work that we've been doing to make a better field for early childhood professionals and to elevate the early childhood education field. Each of your voices and your stories matters, and we hope that you'll continue to connect with us and make sure your voice is heard to make a better Arizona for children, families, and educators.